All right, here we go. Okay, so it's yeah, so we're recording now, my friend.
Right.
Um and thank you. First and foremost, so much for being on the channel and hanging out and talking and being such a cool person and an advocate for EUCs and just an awesome human that like everything that I've seen of the way that you convey yourself is incredibly humble and just awesome professional. Great.
Oh, no. I mean, and yourself, obviously, the reason why I reached out to you was because of the amount of positive videos and message that you put in your videos as well. I was like, wow, this guy really resonates with me. So let me reach out to him. And then I guess I wasn't wrong. Here we are. Thank you for giving me the platform, really.
Well,
I really appreciate that.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And I came up with some questions, and if you have anything that you want to talk about in addition to that, then I'm absolutely thrilled to do that. But I kind of had a little bit of oh snap! I just dropped something. I'm not very eloquent with this stuff, so just bear with me. But I have a little list of questions, and we're going to try to plug through those, and then we'll see if you have anything else to talk about that you want to mention. Then I'm all for it, and we'll see what happens. But what initially got you into selling EUCs, and like was it always e-rides to start, and was it always just like EUCs, or was it like scooters or e-bikes, or like how did that start?
Good question. So, 2028, I believe. No, sorry, 28. Sorry, I wish.
You're from the future.
We're in future. Yeah, we are, right? Some people always tell me, hey, listen, I've done some in the future. I'm like, no. Actually, so 2018, I was watching a video from a New Yorker yeah, called Tushan Fohe. And you need to if you do your research, he's one of the grandfathers of EUC.
Really?
And yeah, you need to look it up. That's how
Okay.
a lot of us started from Tushan Fohe. And watching a video of him videoing and filming some skateboarders. So these are, they just ride around New York. And the music was uplifting. It was happy. I felt like I need to be in New York. And this was a time when I was going through a process where I had a gas guzzling car back then. And I was looking for a change. And then Tesla came along, right? So obviously the whole electric revolution and everything. And I was doing some research about what car should I get. So I got myself a BMW i3, but the car was just sat on my driveway most of the time. And I quickly realized that I actually don't even need a car. I need to get around, but I don't need a car because in London, even if you've got an electric car, you still have to pay for parking, right? So, and you still have to find a space to park in the middle of London. So I needed something that was small, like a micromobility. So I was thinking about getting myself electric skateboard. Hence why I went into YouTube looking for this, skateboards and to buy and what the best models should be. But I noticed that Tushon was getting some angles on in his videos that there is no way an electric skateboard could get. So fortunately, I saw a shadow of what he was riding. I'm thinking, wait a minute, that doesn't look like an electric skateboard. So I reached out to him. Again, very positive guy, absolutely lovely guy. And he said, listen, I'm riding what is called an electric unicycle.
Hmm.
You should get yourself one. And I think it was riding, I think at that time was either riding a Gotway Tesla, which was the original 16-inch, speed wheel back in the days. And but he told me, he said, listen, I think before getting yourself a Tesla or something fast and powerful, get yourself something light and easy to learn on, right? Which was a 9 bot E plus. Very cool
Is
wheel.
that the thin? Is that the thin one?
Yeah. Well, it's white with LED lights around it. It's really beautiful. Looks futuristic, like literally from 2028.
Okay. Okay.
Literally. But it was a great starter wheel to have, right? So I learned on that, and that was it for me. I was supposed to get myself an Evolve skateboard. I was literally a week away from actually pulling the trigger on that and actually getting that for myself.
Hmm.
And then I saw the video from Tushon, and I reached out to him and I saw a lot of his video. And then I was so inspired by him that I traveled to New York in 2018 to meet up with Tushawn. And then he then said to me, listen, you know
Wow.
what? Literally said, Afiz, I know you're here in New York, blah, blah, blah. However, I'm so sorry. I'm actually going to Canada. Do you want to tag along with me to Canada? I was like, okay, all right, let's do it. I didn't plan to I didn't even plan to travel to Canada, but just said, okay, let's, enjoy this adventure. And then when I was in Toronto, there's a guy that you might know now called Jack Electric Dreams, right? He's a YouTube.
Yeah, 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 of
And
course.
Jack, way back in 2018, when we're riding in Toronto, and I was like, okay, that's it. This is how I'm gonna get myself in. I'm gonna get myself an electric unicycle. Obviously, I got myself more electric unicycles, and then I thought, okay, well, I want to start a business, right? Everybody wants to have something on the side, just to supplement their day job. So, well, what best to sell or to get into than what you enjoy writing? That way, the passion, it wouldn't feel like I'm trying to sell you something, or trying
It's
hard to
like
sell
you're,
you.
yeah, you're giving them an opportunity to explore it or experience it.
Absolutely. And it's something I'm already passionate about anyway.
Yeah.
So, people can tell when you're trying to fake something, right? But when it genuinely comes from your heart, I'm from a passionate place, it's easy to sell. And that's how I got into e-rides. And actually, before I decided to actually register the company e-rides, I traveled to China,
Hmm.
and I was supposed to go to China because I have a non-for-profit organization called Rideable. So in the UK, this was back in 2018 when they were not cracking down so harshly on riding. In the UK, it's illegal to ride on public roads. It's not illegal to sell, and it's not illegal to ride on private land, providing that the landowner gives you permission to ride on the land.
Hmm.
But in the UK, it's illegal to ride on public roads and cycle lanes. So I created a non-for-profit organization called Ridables as a co-founder. And then I used the opportunity to go to China to speak to some of the manufacturers on ways in which I think they should improve the safety aspect of what they sell and why I think it's important to take it seriously. Because for us to get this through legislation,
Hmm.
uh, the product needs to be of a certain standard, right? So I went there as part of my mission to go over there, and Kingsong, I was speaking to a lady in Kingsong. I said, "Oh, you're such a great advocate for these things. Why don't you just sell one? Why don't you become like a distributor?" I was like, "Okay, let me see how we go." So we got a few batches in, sold out. Got another batch, sold out. I was like, well, okay, I think there's a demand for these things over here. So there you go. And I just started, e-rise, and here we are, going
And the
on
rest,
24. Yeah.
the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As
Yeah.
they say. Well, I'm
Mm.
happy that you got into it, and I'm sure that everybody that bought one from you is happy that you got into it. I mean, like this, it's been kind of a, I think everybody that has explored it, for them, it's been kind of a supernatural experience. Like
Mm.
for me, I know it's been kind of a lifesaver and a complete life changer, and it's just something that we didn't know was there until we had it. And I also hear a lot of people with the same similar kind of like origin story, as far as they were looking for something. There's like they might have been on a one wheel, or they might have been on a scooter, or they might have been on an electric bike, or they were just looking for something completely different altogether.
Yeah.
And then it ends up kind of like getting them over into the EUC space.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I thought it was called a uke. I actually thought they were called
Yeah.
ukes. I didn't quite understand that it was like electric unicycle.
Yeah.
So like so far in terms of, having been involved with electric unicycles, what is the single best memory that you have so far, with regard to riding electric unicycles?
That's hard.
I
That's
know
a hard.
for me, it's going to have to be, it's really, really, really tough, but I think it was probably the group ride that I had in St. Augustine. They had the whole city all lit up, and, I
Yeah.
was able to do a couple of tricks and fun things. And it was a very different landscape. And we got to ride around the fort. There's like this old fort that they have over there. It's like the oldest. We should do that. If you do, when you do come out, we'll check it out. But there's this, it's, oh gosh, people are gonna lambast me for this, but
No,
it's the oldest fort. Go ahead. Do you know it? Do you know the name?
Well, I'm saying that, but what you can do is, you can once you finally, editing this video, you can take the
Oh,
picture and
yeah.
then
Just bop
superimpose it.
right there. That's what I'll do. So we went for a ride around this historic fort, and then the whole city was lit up like in this gorgeous, absolute, like beautiful white crystally light, and it was just like something out of a dream. And then it was right there on the ocean front. We went over a bridge, and it was just something like out of a fantasy. And it was kind of like what you would imagine the epic sort of like group ride to be, people of all ages, and each stop was made into a feature by like maybe a circle about thing or by like, just so many different features. It was nice. So that's for me, that's like definitely up there, if not the best.
I mean, for me, I've been so fortunate and so lucky to travel to different part of the world where and ride with different EUC community. Um, so for me to choose one, it would be really hard. Maybe I can choose five, if I can just squeeze it in. I promise I'll be quick.
All right,
So,
yeah, run it, run it, run it. I'm
so
excited.
the first one, that obviously, I was in America, and my tour of the US was amazing. Started off in New York, met up with the New York writers. They are crazy but fun at the same time. So genuinely awesome writers, and they're so in your face. And then from New York to Chicago, no, actually, no, from New York to Washington,
Hmm.
and then Washington, great writers there as well, beautiful city. And then from Washington to Chicago, and we had there's a event called the Groundings,
Hmm.
and there was one time I was riding in front because E-Rides also sponsored the event as well. We're one of the sponsors, and we're riding, and I took out my phone and I looked behind me, and I felt like I was part of a movement. Literally about 200 riders behind me.
Wow.
I will, you know what? Once tell me if you need. I would try to look for a snapshot of that video that I shot. It's probably about 10 seconds long. I'll send it to you if I can find it, so you can
That's
crazy.
crazy. So that's number one. That was
That's
number
number
one.
one. So the old American Elvis, and I went down to West Coast as well to meet up with Marty, and I rode with the guys in San Francisco as well. Alien Wright and the rest of those guys, and Jesse. So that's one. The second one was I went to Spain. This was very early on, and I rode in Malaga and Sevilla. Spain, I believe in Spain is legal to ride in certain places, but it's quite is more lenient over there than it is in the UK. Great atmosphere. The weather is beautiful, right? So that's the second one. The third one is in Poland, in a
Hmm.
in a city called Gdansk, with a good friend of mine called Daniel. Again, I'll send you all the screenshots and everything so people can relate to what I'm saying. And then the fourth one was riding with a YouTuber called Kuji Rolls
Oh,
in
snap. I know exactly. Yeah, Kuji. Yeah.
yeah, ridiculous. This was back in the days when the King Song 16 X Force came out. And this guy is an amazing rider. Like his reflexes on electric unicycles like a cat. Is so
He's
reactive. Oh
yeah,
wow.
he's man, he's an inspiration, that guy. I could only imagine.
Yeah. And then the last one, again, I'm just speeding through this because of time. And the last one was in Abu Dhabi. There's a guy called Mohammed Samar.
Yeah, yeah. This guy
Yeah,
always clocking the highest speeds,
yeah.
unicycle or something like that, right?
Oh, they have some of the most beautiful, nicest, clean roads over there. And riding at night, by the desert, beautiful, long, straight roads, amazing. It's one of
Wow.
those, and at the same time, because obviously, well, we're kind of near the desert, right? There is less light pollution, so you can literally see the stars as we're riding, and,
Wow.
and the weather is beautiful at the same time. So I'm like, that's just my top five. So I've been very lucky. And
Wow. It sounds like you've had yeah, it sounds like a dream, dude. It sounds like an absolute dream.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, so e-rides have taken me to some places that I wouldn't have been to. So the company has done a lot for me as well, not
That's
just
so that's so
yeah,
so great. Um,
yeah.
so Well, damn, man, that's awesome. Um, I see there, that's, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about it and I'm like, man, that's a whole lot, dude. Like it's
Hmm.
crazy. I mean, to imagine that, like, you see some people moving around and bouncing around and you just don't realize the scope of the adventure. The adventure, it starts in your backyard and then it takes you to all four corners of the world, it seems like, and there's something to be said for that. Um,
Yeah,
so
and sorry to interrupt you. You
no, no,
mentioned
no, you
something
good, puppy.
about so if you look at the e-rise top behind you, what does it say?
Your adventure starts here.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, it's I mean, it's for me
That's
it's been amazing so far and it's been beautiful, but like the scope of what you've experienced is just it's a whole different ballpark. It's a whole different ballpark. Do you think that there's a beginner that beginner wheels are good still? I mean, I know my personal opinion, and for
yeah.
me, I think that it's important that, the weight is an issue for a lot of people when they get these bigger wheels. And I truly think that if you want to, there's two schools of people. Like if you just want to be able to go in a straight line,
Yeah.
then maybe you don't need a beginner wheel. If you don't want to be able to do all the agile, fun tricks, jumping, bounding, if
Yeah.
that's not in your wheelhouse, so to speak, then maybe you don't need a beginner wheel. But if you're hoping to become some kind of adept, like higher tier rider, then I
Mm.
really think that a beginner wheel is quintessential to like establishing the central nervous system, a baseline of what these things feel like.
I agree. 100%. I agree. So maybe I'm just old school, but as I said earlier, I started riding with the 9-bot E plus, and I was able to train myself, in terms of my spatial awareness. I made mistakes on a wheel that's only, well, I guess the maximum speed is about 13 point some 5 miles an hour or something. And I have caught out before, but I was happy that I caught out at 13.5 miles an hour. And I learned that power is important. And I learned that power is important in terms of the more power you have in an electric unicycle, the safer it is. But at the same time, I also learned how to maneuver electric unicycle in terms of how to stop, how to ride without even thinking. So I learned from that core values of what an electric unicycle should be. Now, it
And
is
and to and for everybody at home, the scope of that, we're saying like 13 miles an hour and we're asking for more power. We're not saying like 60 miles an hour and saying more power necessarily. So
yeah,
there's a
exactly,
scope there because there's some people that will hear what you just said and take it to that 70, 80 mile an hour argument. And I
exactly.
might have a different conversation at that speed.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So power doesn't necessarily mean more speed. Power, because with electric unicycle, you need to stay balanced, and power is what keeps you up, right? So the more power you have, the harder it is for you to cut out an electric unicycle, right? So it doesn't mean that the electric unicycle needs to go 70 or 100 miles an hour. That's not what I'm talking about. But another thing that I've learned from learning from a relatively light, smaller wheel is in terms of skill set, like going backwards, just being agile, right? And just being self-aware. You need to master the skill set first before you jump on a powerful electric unicycle. Electric unicycle is a one-wheel self-balancing device, so therefore it's inherently unbalanced anyway. So it depends on you to be confident enough to kind of maneuver it around obstacle, right? If you jump on a heavy wheel, right, and you're not sure or have the experience of how to stop a wobble, a high speed wobble. How do you stop a high speed wobble? Because you've never really experienced it on a small wheel before, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
absolutely, but if you were jumping on a, I don't know, Sherman S or whatever as your first wheel, and you get a high speed wobble, you wouldn't have the experience of how to stop that. Whereas if you get a high speed wobble at 15 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and
Or
you
like
make
on like a V8, like that was my first one, and
yeah,
that
yeah,
was
that is a great wheel to learn on. V8, V5, V8 more. Um, you know, Learn first on wheels that are more forgiving, because the big wheel initially they might seem safer, a bit more balanced because of the weight distribution. But when you get a high speed wobble at high speeds and you have no experience of it, You're
Oh,
going down.
it'll take you down. It'll absolutely take you down. I mean, like I have this weird feeling that I think that people should try to cut their wheel out. I think that you should have a wheel that you can cut out. Like, and I think that's why it's important to have a beginner wheel because you should understand what that feels like so it doesn't catch you off guard one day. Like you should know, I mentioned it in a video that I just did. The audio wasn't super duper good, but there's this in terms of when you're riding a wheel and you're getting to going fast, there's this pitch that the wheel gets. No matter the size of the wheel, it starts to get to this pitch point. And once that frequency gets to a certain place, then you know that you know that the wheel is imminent, that it is going to cut out. And I think that it's really important to know what that feeling feels like and to just be ready for it. Know what you're going to do in that event. And the only way that you can practice that particular fire drill is to just do it. So if you have an air wheel or if you have a solo wheel or if you have a V5 or if you have a 14D or whatever it is, just find some grass and put on all of your armor, all that Power Ranger armor that everybody buys, and they look like full-blown cowboy stormtroopers. Put that to use and just cut yourself out a V8. That's how I feel. But
I agree.
If you this is funny, and I really want to. So you had some time to think about this, so you know what's coming next. You know what's coming next. Okay, so all right, so the master. What if you had to out of the following wheels, what do they eat? I know this is funny, but it was just I got to thinking about it myself one day, and I was like, I kind of have my own answers about these, but and then I gave you some multiple choice to make it seem a little bit easier there. But if you have some different ideas about what these guys eat, then by all means. So for today we have number 1 being the Master, number 2 being the S22, number 3 being the EXN, number 4 being the 14D, and number 5 being the brand new Adventure. The options for what these things may or may not eat being beef tacos, fish and chips, being sushi, being spaghetti and meatballs, and pizza. So what does the Begode Master eat? What is it?
Okay, so do this so that I still remember. Just remind me of the food again. Tacos,
We got beef tacos, we've got fish and chips. C is sushi, D is spaghetti and meatballs, E is pizza.
Okay, and this is for the EXN, right? Or Master?
For the Master.
For the Master. I would say tacos.
The Master eats tacos. Yeah, okay. And so just one quick sentence about why the Master eats tacos.
Well, I mean, I've tried tacos before when I was in the US, and it's kind of like a mishmash of, things that I'm trying to describe how it tastes. But with the Master, the reason why I said that is it's kind of like hit and miss with tacos. With the Master, when it first came out, I don't think was ready yet.
Okay.
So, all right. But now they've perfected the taco. They've perfected the Master, and I know that there's a Master V4 coming. So it's there now. It's a good, it's there. But when if you can get a good taco, but normally it's a bad taco, and then someone then perfects it, and then it becomes good. So the Master is tacos.
All right. Then that makes the S22. We only have 4 other options, so we're working the pin down, and that means that we have we'll give the Master gave them something to talk about. The S22 has fish and chips, sushi, spaghetti and meatballs, or pizza. What did the S22 do? And the S22 was an S20, and then it was an S22, and it was an S22 Pro. But what is it eating?
Okay, so pizza. I think about Italy, right? S22, when it first came out with that design, was like something that Ferrari probably designs, because of it was
like
so
that.
radical.
Yep. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, I want that wheel. And I think everybody thought that when they first saw that wheel. I'll totally give it. It has that really exotic design for sure.
Italian. Exactly. So I was S22 pizza Italian. Yeah, red on it.
Right. I can go with that.
Yeah.
I can go with that. And then with the EXN, everybody's classic favorite super fast wheel, Maribel Vargas continues to smoke fools today on the EXN. So what do you think about the EXN? We got fish and chips, we have sushi, and we have spaghetti and meatballs left.
I would say EXN is definitely fish and chips.
For some reason, I feel like the EXN is a fish and chips kind of wheel too. For some reason, maybe because you know,
Yeah.
she's chonky. She's chonky.
Yeah.
She got a
Yeah.
little extra fat around the
Oh,
curve. You
yeah.
know, she got a little curvature to her, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, she's
Yeah.
eating those French fries a little bit.
Yeah, well, I told like yeah, EXN. Talking about EXN, just to drop a quick word about that wheel. I still think that is one of the most underrated, last of the golden years of true performance, true connected performance of electric unicycle. As in, you lean into this wheel and it just goes. It does what it's supposed to do. It's a
Yeah,
race wheel.
absolutely.
It's just balance,
The
even though it's not
pedigree.
supposed. Yeah, but the pedigree is there, right? But it's not supposed to be balanced because it's got two packs on one side and one pack on the other side. But somehow it's balanced. It's really weird, but it's a great wheel. It's a great wheel.
I love it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that it's amazing because once you settle into this kind of this footing offset that
Yeah.
you know, because like when you first start riding, I think everybody wants to pinch their legs in, they want to pinch their shins in, don't realize that the closer you sit, the more likely you are to wobble, right? And
Yes.
so eventually we space out a little bit, and that kind of helps. And then eventually we kind of offset a little bit, and that kind of helps. So once you settle into this offset notion, then it's like, oh, the pack distribution on the EXN starts to make sense when you work that into your offset. And
Yeah.
then once you do that, that dissymmetry leans itself into a certain that just makes it absolutely amazing. I had the Molly Cell edition of that wheel
Wow.
that came from E-Wheels, and that wheel would absolutely just smoke. I love that wheel. So I'm absolutely with you. You know what, man? That means that the last two make so much sense. That means that like the 14D has to be sushi, right? Like the
Yeah, it's
14D has to be
sushi.
it has to be
It's
sushi.
sushi.
It
Yeah, of
looks like
course.
a little like a little roll it looks like it's
Yeah,
sushi. And
it's
then that
sushi.
makes and then I wouldn't have picked it out the gate and I wouldn't have been able to tell you what the adventure ate. But now clearly the adventure does spaghetti and meatballs. And like
Because
and like with its noodly little coil that's built into it and its kind of chonky self, I mean, you could totally see that that's what the adventure eats. That makes so much sense.
But
And
it's but the thing about adventure is, I'm sure obviously you know about this even probably more than anybody right now on the planet in terms of riding the adventure. That wheel has so much torque. I think the adventure is such a torquey wheel, and think when people start to get the V14, they'll start to realize that it's more powerful than what it looks like. It looks like it's a toy, a cute little toy. Oh wow, it's got the orange and everything, but it's a serious
okay,
wheel.
so w- why did we end up making specialty pedals, bro? Like what was and you started to allude to that yesterday, but why are we making specialty pedals?
It comes from a request. It's so a while ago. There's a friend of mine here in the UK called Brian, and when the thing about Brian is whenever he got his EUC right, the first thing he does is he always moves the pedal 1 degree up because he likes to kind of torque the wheel like this.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we had EUCs that didn't really have the grip that was needed, especially with the
I
amount of
remember
torque.
those old pedals. I remember those
Yeah,
old pedals were you get a little bit
absolutely.
of sand on them or a little bit of mud on them, and it was done
And
deal.
you're fine. Yeah, absolutely. So I just thought, listen, there is a need here. Rather than wanting to have a pedal, that's actually a need. So we need something that is grippy. We need something that you can torque. There were a couple of pedals on the market where we looked at what's good, what's not good, sat down, went through some of the qualities that were in our pedals, and we said, okay, well, we can either make the pedals really light, but at the same time, we can compromise the material, or just make them out of solid aluminum 6061, now 7075, and just make them cool, make them good looking at the same time, but make them very functional. But with me, I've got a nerdy sense of humor, so I thought, well, I need to kind of give them names as well, right? So came up with Iron Man, Wolverine, Noir, because Noir is French for black. You
The
probably
black,
know
it's
that.
the all black, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Black. So I said Noir, but yeah, so black. So the black one is Noir, and then we have Naked, which is a silver one because he hasn't got any clothes on because it's just plain silver. So,
Dude, that's
so
so crazy. Yeah, like I love it. I absolutely love that. I mean, I've seen a number of the aftermarket pedals, and I love them. I had the free motion pedals. They're absolutely awesome. When looking at both your pedals and the free motion pedals, it seems that like that they're, you know, those two would be pretty close to some of my favorite pedals, due to the amount of relief that they provide. I don't like such tight weaving. So when you get to that sort of relief, when you can see that there's a verticality and it staggers that, then
Yeah.
what that translates into from a rider perspective for me is it means that my whole foot isn't being pancaked, so I get blood flow. And what
Yeah.
that means that's really important is that you have like these places where your foot can sink down through. So
Yeah.
the hex format is really nice. The hex
Yeah.
format's really nice, like on the InMotion ones, but they're so tight that you don't get as much relief. So it seems like on the wheel, on the pedals rather, that you've kind of gotten this perfect hybrid of this relief with this nice tight weave. So it seems like a little bit stronger perhaps than the way that the free motion pedals may be conceived, if a little heavier. But I think that may be for the sort of abuse that I put a pedal through is probably going to be a little bit more functional for me. I
Yeah.
really, really love the studs. I mean, like everything about it. I mean, I noticed the iridescence in the studs. I mean,
We've seen
there's
that
like every down
a
to the
little bit.
details.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a little bit of
It's the details that matter, man. And that's why I tweeze the edge of my eyebrows here, because it's the details.
it's the
It's not up
deal,
here that matters. It's the edge back here. So,
yeah.
um,
I think, yeah, those pedals took quite a while to formulate. I think that's probably version 9 that finally came out. I went through so many tweaks, back and forth, back and forth. And then when I was finally happy, they were launched officially, revealed in New York when I came to New York last year now. Yeah. So that was when I went, because if the New Yorkers like it, you could bet your dollar everybody else will probably might like it too, because they're very critical. They either like someone, they don't like it, and they'll tell you in your face. So the New Yorkers liked it, and yeah, and then I went to production with them.
what's like the philosophy that you go into with each of the components that you make? Because at this point, the reason why this question actually came to mind for me, is because of the pedal hangers that you've made. So when I was looking at the way that those pedal hangers were made, they're just such a really, really good quality, that I was taken aback. And it just seems like there is a significant amount of care that goes into the way that the things that you make are produced. I mean, it's obvious with these pedals that you definitely have taken a significant amount of care into it. You can't really see it right here. I can maybe twist this around. Um, but even down to these stickers that you make here that are like raised and have this wonderful texture to them. I mean, it seems like there's just this incredible amount of detail to finish. And if if the people at home know about colors, with regard to like printing things and making things, it's like, the more colors that you add, the more money that it gets exponentially just for adding the colors. So it's like doing that for the sake of that and then giving it away, even on the stickers for free. It's just, it's pretty crazy. So it's a wonderful attention to detail. And for those who haven't had the privilege of seeing any of the E-Rides goods or gear, I would highly recommend, if you have a friend, to check that out, because it's over and above.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just bring you here. So you have this laser rolling jackets over here, right?
Yeah.
And all in different colors. So we collaborated in the past with laser rolling to get this done. Now,
Right.
what I like about this jacket, you were talking about the philosophy of how we design things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There always, obviously, it needs to look good, but also needs to have a reason why, as in a purpose of designing them. And the purpose usually surrounds, in some of the product that we produce, is to do with safety, mostly safety, but also looking good while being safe. Those two
Okay.
things are very important. So with the jacket, when Lazy Rolling first released this jacket, I thought it was awesome, but I felt like for the EUC community was missing one or two things. Two things, as in the chest protector, because when you fall over as an EUC, you fall like that, right? So
Yeah,
we need to
forward.
have that. Exactly. So Lazy Rolling didn't have that. So that was incorporated. And then you have the different colors as well. I'm sure you've seen Chooch with this one over here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You've seen Mohammed in Dubai as well.
Yeah, Samir, the one with he's got the crazy fast M Pro 3 right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got the blue one. I prefer the orange one. The reason why you have different colors is because you want to be seen when you riding your wheel in a city, right? Because you're moving with traffic, especially where it's legal, like in New York and other places where it's okay
Yeah,
to ride them.
you want to stand out. You want to stand out for sure.
Exactly. So there's a philosophy of looking good, being seen, obviously for safety as well. So when you look at the pedal, for example, right, you've got your pedal over there, and I've got mine as well. Yes, it's got a different colors, but if you look at the way it's kind of designed here, right? It even this risers over here, there is a reason why they are this length. This length, well, we've been through different versions of this risers, and we agreed to stay at this length because it gives you the right amount of curvature that your leg doesn't slip if you are going really fast and you need to brake, and that gives you reassurance and keeps you safe. And even when you look at these studs as well, that this particular studs was chosen because there's a little bit of it's almost like there's a stud within a stud. Again, it goes into how we think and a philosophy as well. So rather than just designing things and just pushing it out, sometimes we've had several products that they've nearly gone out and I've stopped it because it doesn't meet our philosophy of best in its class in terms of safety wise, and it needs to look good as well. There's some things. I'll bring you over here. So you were talking about pedal hangers as well. When you look at the pedal hanger, you were talking about how it's made. I wanted to have, rather than just have a pedal hanger that is very simple and very straightforward, we had two pieces where you can slide the pedal hanger from 3 different positions. I'm not sure if you can see it. So this 5 bolts align with this 5 bolts over here, and that's one position. And then you can kind of, have the highest setting, which I know you like. And then you have the middle.
Cow. Wow. Okay, so I didn't realize that's how it went together. That's so
Yes.
insane. I had no idea that that's actually how it went together. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's 7075 CNC. And even when you look at the packaging as well, when we work with the manufacturer that I worked with, even that manufacturer takes some of our ideas, which I don't mind because it's a partnership, and he also actually incorporates it into what he does as well with his other clients. But I wanted it to be black on the inside, and I wanted this to be obviously gold, kind of orangey, because it pops. Again, it's about looking good, but you also want to feel quality as well. But you're right. So if you look at the way it's designed, that 5 pins aligns with this 5 pins there, and then you can kind of move it up, and that's it.
Dude,
So it's
that's an insane amount of detail that you put in there, and it looks like stellar. Like, I really can't wait to replace this with that. Like the style cues, oh my gosh, it's gonna look so much better when we get that in here. Like, I'm really, really pumped. That's gonna be crazy.
Well, as you can see, I actually test some of like a lot of the things that we eventually push out there. I actually test them personally, and sometimes if I'm not happy with them, it doesn't go out. So I'm at the lowest setting right now. So yours will look similar to that. Actually, yours would be high because I know you prefer the higher settings. So what you need to do here is essentially, can you see how that is? So those are the 5 screws, and I'm at the lowest setting right now because I prefer to have a lower setting because it makes the V14 a lot more stable at speed. But you can raise it. Yeah, you can raise it higher by 1 level, and that is the normal V14, or this close to being normal V14 factory setting. But if you want the Johnny Go Vroom setting, you can push it higher. But
all the way to the top. All the way to the top. It's going to get way more squirrely. You're going to be on high, extremely difficult mode. You're going to be on very adventurous mode if you go all the way to the top.
Yeah. But some people like that, like yourself, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of that.
But then again, the issue that you have with that, and the reason why I've left this fairing that comes from InMotion on here so I can show you, is that you can't raise it any higher, that you cannot go high. So taking feedback from what you gave to me, right? We then designed, talking about design philosophy, it's also about feedback as well, and what makes sense. We then designed our own specific fairing
Oh my God.
for the
Okay.
V.
Geez. Okay. So like guys, so he automatically fixed so many problems. I'm gonna let you talk about it, but yeah, like so many problems got fixed with what you're showing us right now.
Yeah, exactly. So we fixed the issue that we introduced by introducing this multi-level pedal hanger by having this section over there. You see that little gap over there that allows you to actually go to the higher setting, which
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
won't be able to have if you use the normal fairing. And we include this, at least for now anyway, for free for limited time. So you will get a fairing and you will get this pedal hanger as one set. Now, the last thing that I then decided, I'm not sure if I spoke to you about it, or for me anyway, I thought the fairing needs to be a little bit wider and you need more space. So we then additionally added more centimeters at the front and at the back of the fairing that you will get with your pedal hanger
Well, I
as
mean,
well,
yeah,
giving you
and
more.
well, I mean, it's, and it also goes into just what people like to do in terms of where how they're riding and where they're riding, like it really depends in terms of like pad placement and stuff. So that's going to give a lot more dimension. I notice that there's like a tapering, so there's like a bottom spot and then it goes
Yes.
out just a little bit and then it goes out
Yes.
just a little bit more. So, that's going to give you a lot of flexibility. Essentially, most people are going to be putting their back pad just a little bit further back, but it looks like that's a right and left side. So you're keeping costs down by making sure that it's a right and left side panel interchangeably, and then we can extend that back just a little bit more because in the instance of a lot of these wheels, what I find even is that there's just not enough room to like have that. If you have a two-piece pad setup, there's not enough really place to give you leverage for the braking mechanic. So that's really cool, man. Like you really did that. There's a lot of problems that just got solved right there out of the box with you. So guys, but like not to be like a shill, but for real, like it's gonna change the entire game. If you got this wheel for trail riding, like this is going to make your wheel the apex predator that it is meant to be. At that highest setting, you're going to feel like this is the most thrill-seeking adventure to try to go 35 miles an hour. You're going to feel really, 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 really scared doing that. Not to be funny, but it's going to make it to where that it's just tenuous to be on because the foot axle relationship is going to change. So if your axle is here, you're going to want your foot to be a little bit below the axle. If your foot goes much higher than the axle or equal with the axle, Sean pointed this out. He made a really good point of this. But if your foot goes much higher than the axle, then you're going to have a really squirrely relationship with the control mechanic. But that's also going to give you a much better clearance over top of the rim here. So whenever you're riding, guys, you see that these pedals in relationship to the rim, when it gets compressed, what you got to realize is that this distance here, you got to minus about 90 millimeters of travel or 80 millimeters of travel, whatever it is. It's 90 or 80? 80?
I think it's about 80.
80 millimeters of travel. So you got to minus this by 80 and then figure that the terrain is going to be kind of wrapping around what you're doing. It's not going to be a linear flat thing. So being able to bring your pedals up, another, how much height are we getting?
So from the normal setting, the middle setting to below is 30 millimeter lower. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's 30 millimeters from the lowest setting to the middle setting and 30 from the middle setting to the highest setting. Okay. So yeah. So let me show you right here. So we get it. I'm sure you can see this.
Yes. That's going to make it a whole lot clearer, I think, for the people at home.
Yeah, exactly. So the distance between the lowest setting and that setting there is about 30 millimeters. And then from there onwards is, I believe it's another 30 millimeters to the highest setting. So that is a drastic change from the lowest, as you can see, to the highest.
Yeah. So that's going to give you a whole lot more like to play with So, I mean, in these InMotion wheels, they have this thing called the split ride mode as well. You know about that, right? The split ride mode, of course, right? And so with the ability to bring the pedal from the bottom, right, to the middle to the top, you're not only going to be able to change inside of the app like the dynamics of the way that your wheel controls, very specific to the terrain and the situations that you encounter on a day to day. But you're also going to be able to change the physics, the physical physics characteristics of the way that you ride. There's a couple of wheels out there that have this. I think the Master Pro has it, and I think that the new ET Max has this. I don't know, like I don't know about the other ones, but this really should be a feature that EUC manufacturers look at trying to incorporate. But if with the caveat that if you can't do it like here, show them yours, because if you can't do it like that, then just leave it to, you know, people that really take pride in this.
Yeah.
See,
So
that right there is an over that's an overachieved example of like engineering.
yeah, exactly. And it's I'm really proud of this. And it feels so nice as well. It just feels balanced. You know, when you touch a product and you're and you know it's made with care. It's taken us a couple of months to get this done. And I know it looks like a very simple mechanism.
But no, it
Yes, it
doesn't
is.
look simple at all. Can you show people the other side actually and tell us a little bit about the other side? Yeah, tell us a little bit about the other side, how that looks like that fits so nice.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what bolts onto the pedal hanger or the old where the old pedal hangers go. So
So
this
you
goes on.
can't even see that part, but like the attention to detail on the part that you can't even see, just
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's beautiful. And I remember what I told you about when we design something, you want to know it's designed by E-Rides. I'm not like what we tend to do sometimes is look for designs or product that we know has the potential, and we sprinkle a little bit of that E-Rideness to it if there's ever a
that's
word.
awesome, man. I absolutely love it. So Judah, this is I'm sending you this, and then we're gonna be sending you a set of these fairings once they go into production, brother. So like you've been patient as the day is long, but I know you're waiting on your V14, and the chances are this stuff is gonna be there before you get your V14. I know you're waiting on that second batch, but just so you know, I haven't forgot about you, bro. Thank you for my letter. What makes a wheel stand out to you? Like what really makes a wheel worthy of the E-Rides like embrace? Like because there's so many wheels that come out, there's so many wheels that manufacturers are putting out these days. When you go into R&D, when you go into the efforts to create these artesian, I'll call it these artesian things, artisan, I think that's, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but these artisan parts, you know, that are form, function, and like premium. I mean, it is like the Nismo to a Nissan. It is like the Mugen to a Honda. You know, this sort of mechanic. It is, you know, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so I know that you can't, as a company, go in there and each and every wheel, you know, gets their own specialty thing. So what makes you say, okay, that one?
That,
That one
I'll
over
tell you
there.
what. Okay, so from a selfish perspective, I I kind of I like wheels that are balanced and have got torque. And so if a wheel has got balance and has torque, but listening to what the community also says as well. If I know this wheel is nearly there. Like I know the V14, obviously you know about the V14. The V14 is such a great wheel, but it was just missing something. You know, that je ne sais quoi, that last bit of thing to make it perfect or almost perfect. That is what really makes me gravitate towards something. No offense, and I don't want to, start calling out names there, but the Big God Master, I just never go along with that. Well, the pattern had a lot of potential, but I felt it wasn't as fun. To me, when the wheel is fun, I gravitate towards it. If it's got torque, if it's got balance, if I feel like the wheel has got really great build quality as well. But most importantly, if I'm noticing that there are chatters within the community, I say, oh, this wheel is great, but I wish it had this. So sometimes I listen to what the community wants, right? And that also helps me say, well, maybe this wheel deserves our attention as well. So there's a little bit coming from what I like personally, which is a bit selfish, but also what the community are whispering. Sometimes when you go on, when you go onto the forum, you have to give people what they want. In terms of the pedals was in collaboration, with our manufacturer that we identified, similar to Lazy Rolling as well. They were already making pedals, but they were just missing something. And people were talking about if only we had better grips. on our wheels. And we just thought, okay, well, I think this is something that we should explore. And I took my time. I looked at some of the great, there's some great pedals, great pedals already on the market already, but how can we then bring our e-ride style to it with the different colors, with the different grip spikes, again, which is very different. Our grip spikes are different. Even with the height, as I mentioned before, with the height of the risers as well. It's something where it's hard to explain, but when I like something, as in when I like a wheel, I put a lot of my time into it. I listen to what some of the great riders say. I'm talking about Sean from NYC. I speak to him a lot as well.
Yeah.
I'm now speaking to you now.
I love Sean. I love Sean. He's such. But Sean, when you see this, I like you, dog.
Like Sean is such a great storyteller. He's able to explain
yes.
something. Yeah. I could listen to him talk all day. And when I'm on the call to him, he would just tell me, Hafiz, it's a great wheel, but I just wish it had this and that. And he wouldn't criticize it. He wouldn't criticize the wheel, but he would just tell you, I wish I had this, because he's got that sense of what good looks like. And if we agree on something, I'll say, you know what? Maybe it's something for me to think about as well. So I'll listen to the community, but most of the time I also listen to what I like too. So yeah, that's, in the longest way possible to answer that question, that is what makes the wheel worthy of our attention.
Okay, so when the community, in kind of a couple of words, when the community starts to whisper, and when it catches your eye, and when enough people are interested, but it needs that touch, that aesthetic, and that form and function that it seems like through a number of years inside of this, albeit a very, very young industry, throughout your time in this, it's given you the opportunity to see where these improvements can be made in a very, very I want to say in a very quick fashion, to take advantage, because there's a small launch window for these things. Also, the turnover rate is so big, so it's like you have to identify that the community is making noise, you have to identify that there's a need, and then you have to identify that it's important enough for you to say, okay, that's where we're going to put our efforts. So that's super duper awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that, for explaining that also to all the folks at home. I wanted to throw out this crazy idea about pedals potentially. See, these pedals in their current iteration, I absolutely love. I would consider these performance riding pedals. But there's a lot of people out there, not me, that are into these long distance rides. And long distance rides, being able to give yourself, when you're not doing a lot of turns and a lot of twists and stuff, being able to give yourself a little bit more space on the pedal, a little bit more size on the pedal, might be something to think about, like a Cadillac size pedal, or something that has a little bit more relief, but it's not designed for per se performance riding, but it's more designed for being able to spread your feet out and being able to my guy reads that's for the
that's for the pattern and the links also. But there are some ideas that the team over here are trying to pressure me into doing for other models.
That looks insane. Yeah, dog. All right, I'm gonna bother you about those later, because everybody, people think I have this unfair relationship with the patent. Before we get into the final surprise, people think I have this unfair relationship with the patent, and I just want to make it clear for everybody at home that I absolutely adore the patent, but in an objective place, speaking from my background personally, which is just a several times over certified personal trainer that's owned his own company for quite a few years. For me, that's 5 years. That's a long time. I'm 40. That's a significant chunk for me. And so when I look at things, I don't look at things as I can't look at them in a best of overall. I have to look at them in a use case scenario, because there is no best chess exercise for you. Okay. There is no, for every single person, there is no best exercise. It depends on your life, what you're doing, how you're living. There is no best training program for every single person. It depends on your life, how you're living, what you're doing. So when we talk about these wheels, it depends on where you're going, how you're riding, what you're doing, what you aspire to do. And for me, you will find when you hop on this V14, everybody at home, and I think you'll agree, right? Like that this wheel is a lot more agile, right? A lot more agile translates into a lot more unstable, translates into you need a little bit more time, but instability in your muscles is not an instability in the wheel. The wheel has agility that needs stability from you at home. So when you grab one of these wheels, you at home, everybody at home, when you grab one of these wheels, know that you are grabbing onto a very powerful tool that has a little bit of a learning curve. But if you aspire to the learning curve because you want to be able to ride these trails like a madman, you want to be able to jump downstairs, you want to be able to tackle skate parks, you want to be on that upper level of performance riding and be able to beat the hell out of the wheel's function the way that you can beat the hell out of the patent's body. Hear me now, okay? The way that people aspire to call the patent durable, and it is, the body of it is very durable. Speaking very pointedly, it's very durable, the body, okay? But if you were ripping trails at 1,000 miles an hour and those trails are abusive and those trails take you like through roots, through ruts, through rocks, through all sorts of things, this is going to take the use case abuse a lot more, a lot longer, a lot stronger, with a lot less maintenance in the end. You will never have to fill up the oil in these shocks. You will never have to take this apart and redo the shocks and take them apart and clean them and redo the seals and all that stuff. This thing has a suspension that you can just beat the ever-loving snot out of. I heard on like low key that a lot of people did have a problem with it at first. There was some things that happened with it. I was fortunate that it never happened to me, but that's even being fixed. So this suspension is turnkey. You have it, it's done, it's ready to go for infinity and beyond.
I agree with that. Honestly, I think the V14 and when I first got my V14, I liked it, but I just felt that it was a little bit unstable, just a little bit unstable. It was a bit twitchy. So one of the reasons why I actually introduced the pedal hanger was because I want to be a bit lower. Obviously, when you go lower, it actually improves the stability.
Dramatically.
And then if you then want to go off, if you want to go trail riding, you know, where you are as well, then you can increase it. And the V14 is so customizable and so durable. I know it's got the plastic part on top, and people think that that means it's very fragile, but obviously you can always just remove those parts. But for the most part, to me, the V14 is the most fun 16 modern. I say modern, because obviously before that there's the Gotway Tesla and the other, olden days 16-inch, and those ones are super nippy, but they're not as powerful. But for modern 16-inch wheels, the V14 here is, to me, the best for my use case. Anyway,
exactly.
So
and that's really important to say for people, for what we plan on doing. That's just what it is.
Yeah, it is. And so what I've done here is for the V14, because it's got ridiculous amount of torque. So I put this aggro pads, we call them, well, they're called aggressive pads, but they're called aggro pads. And for the brake, you need awesome brakes. It already has awesome brake, but this will allow you to extract a bit more out of it as well. Mm-hmm. But one thing I do like about this wheel is it's so customizable from the app. So I have about 75% acceleration assist, and I think I have about 80 to 90% brake assist. So that again changed how the wheel feels. So for someone to say, "Hey, I've ridden the V14 for about 20 minutes, and I can tell you right now that the V14 is not good or is the best wheel," no, you need some time to play around with the V14, with the setting, with the pedal hanger, with the pedals, with the with the limb pads as well. But I think as an overall package,
and even the speed settings, like how hard do you want it braking, how hard do you want it accelerating? I mean, it does all of those things for you dynamically.
Yeah.
So
dynamically,
so I'm in love with the V14, and it seems like you are too. And we are going to get people to understand No, it's not twitchy enough for me, to be honest. A final point of everything to get everybody excited at home. So there's a big announcement, and I'll let you go ahead and bring it home. But it used to be that we had to say, if you want a EUC in the United States, then you have to go to one of these guys, and then if you and these guys are awesome. These guys are
No,
awesome.
they
Not
are.
these guys in
They
a
are.
dismissive way, but you had to go to these guys, or and then when you go to the UK, then you can get some wheels from E-Rides. That is, tell me more about what's happening.
Well, the thing is, we could always send wheels to the US. That was never the problem. But because the way, but maybe partly my fault as well. I've always introduced myself as Afiz from the UK. So there is this kind of mental blockage from people that think, oh, wow, those guys are there in the UK. So the wheels can't be sent to the US. We've always had the capability. I mean, we already sell pedals, so we always sell to the US. But right now, I just want to, because customers have been demanding from us a long time. Like, well, are you guys ever going to sell wheels in the US? I'm like, we can. And sometimes they ask me, how much is it in dollars, to be able to buy wheels from you guys? And, we've had this question for so much that we just realized that we need to create a website dedicated to our US customers. So this is essentially because of customer demand. So yes, we do sell wheels in the US now. And actually, the reason why I'm here is so that I can.
When's the website coming? Is the website up yet?
This is it. This is why I want to show you. Can
There
you see
we
it? So
go.
this is it right here. It's got the US flag. So it's, you're on the US website. It says ERI's USA store. You can still, if you want to go to a global site that, serves the entire world, you can always click on that. If you want to go to the EU store specifically, you can go on that. But this is the US store.
Dude, that's
And
so awesome. So how does service work? So how does service work? So if somebody gets a wheel from you in the US and say something weird happens and they
yeah.
need to have it fixed or RMA'd, like what does that look like?
So, fortunately, so I was in the US about a year and a half ago or something, and I went around, toured around the East Coast and everywhere. And there are a lot of shops out there that even some of the US current US distributors use, third-party stores, so shops rather. And I went there. I kind of did my kind of interview process. I kind of
Oh, you
interviewed
did
them
some
without them.
recon. My man had some plans already. He did his little
I did.
reconnaissance mission.
Absolutely. So there are we've got a couple of stores over there that we will be using that people and the community already trust anyway. These are already known names that the community already uses.
Well, there's a new name in Central Florida, and they made sure that I got my V13 back up and running. So PEV connection. If you
I
haven't
know.
already talked,
I already know of them. So so they are part of our
woo-hoo.
network.
That's
They're
awesome.
already
Awesome.
part of our
Okay,
network.
awesome.
Yeah, so I'm gonna reach out to them again just to say, hey guys, I'm gonna send them an email. So there is already a network of these great third party companies out there that we trust that will
That's
have
a
the
fact.
e-rise.
I honestly didn't even think about that. So that solidifies it right there. Okay,
Exactly.
so say somebody has to send a wheel back. Say a wheel has to be shipped back and then they have to, like, for some reason, it has to go back and then come back. Like, what happens if the wheel is broken and they just need a new wheel? Like, what does that look like?
Well, that's fine. If a wheel cannot be repaired and it's gone back and they need a new wheel, they need a new wheel. We'll send them a new
So,
wheel.
well, I mean, like, what is the what would be the in a catastrophic event failure where we tried to fix it, or it seemed like there was just a factory issue beyond reasonable, like, just approach, like, you know, so some of the, like, what would your service approach be to that? I'm just like asking the worst case scenario, so that way the folks at home know that they can trust the resolution.
Absolutely. So in the case of dead on arrival, or if the wheel
Yes,
has a
yes, yes. That's
yeah,
that's a great
exactly.
example. You know. Okay.
Yeah. So we've been in this industry for going on 4 or 5 years now, anyway, and we have had several of those, and we know how to deal with them, and we'll deal with them exactly the same way we've been dealing with them in Europe and globally, which is to send them a brand new wheel, which is what the customer deserves, right? If it's dead on arrival, we just send
Awesome.
them a brand new wheel. The dead on arrival wheel will then be sent to our partner shops. So there you
Okay.
go. So for them
So,
to hold on.
So guys, there you have it. There you have it. So you're going to be able to get your wheels in the USA like you've always been able to do, but now he's just made it a whole lot more convenient for you to be able to do it. And
Right
since you've
here.
got that up on the screen,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
are you doing that? Like, so I talked to the engineers at InMotion. I talked to Bob at InMotion, and then Zen Lee has also made his voice known in regards to the current components and the GB50S battery comparison and issues. And we know that in a
So,
lab, the 50S performs better, but in practical use with the current components, unless the wheel is absolutely built around taking advantage of the 50S component, then we are
good
not
point.
necessarily getting the uptick that you imagine. So just bear that in mind. Now, that said, what are we
Yeah.
going to be doing? Like what is the if we call it the apex predator, the alpha omega beast of the V14, if somebody orders a V14 from you, what kind of
Mhm.
upgrades can they expect? And I was talking to you about maybe offering those upgrades like installed already. Like what does that look like? Is there an extra fee for that? Like we got about 2 minutes left. Can you break that down and for me?
Okay, so quickly, if you order, and actually, let me go back to the screen right now so you know what you get because this is already set up already. So if you were to order the V14 from us, you get up to 30% off the ERISE pedals, the V14 height adjustment pedal hanger, and you get a compatible fairing all in one as part of the package. Now we are in discussion with some of our partners as well to see if we can already have all of this installed on the wheel for you already. But at the moment, once if you buy the wheel from us, you will get all of those accessories for ridiculous amount off, like 30% off. That already going.
So what would be like the total price of a V14 from you and USD fully kitted out with the fairings and the whole kit and caboodle?
Hold on 1 minute. So the best way to do that is to come to the website. Hold on, let me go to this one over here. Go to the website and then
There might be some smart Americans out there, but like I'm pretty stupid as far as we
no,
go. I
it's
don't
okay.
count past fingers and hands.
There you go. So the wheel itself is 3199 anyway. And
Okay.
then if you were to obviously got the wheel, you pick that and you pick that. That is
Okay, so
free.
it's all super duper easy. It's easy to put it all together. Okay.
And then you have total. It's all on the website, and then you just
Okay.
get it.
So it ends up being like 30, what, 33? I can't see it.
Um, yeah, it end up being 3322. Yeah,
Okay,
33.
so basically you get it's wow. That's insane, man.
Yeah,
That's
you get
really crazy.
all of that.
Holy cow. Okay, okay, guys. So hurry up, get yourself one of these one of these V14s. All right. Thank you so much, Afiz, for joining us today. It's about to be bye. Can you tell everybody bye?
Bye, 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 bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today, bro. And the recording is about to stop, but that doesn't mean our conversation has to.
Absolutely.
Oh
Thank you.
man, that was
I really
awesome.
appreciate it, Johnny. Thank you.